Hello, hello, my friends. AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink. Welcome back to my face and my card making space. Revisiting an oldie but goodie favorite of mine. So I was playing around with some different color combos, and I had created two different blends using various Simon Says Stamp Positively Saturated inks. And then I was happy with the blends, I was happy with the colors, and then I was like, had to pull it out. I've done many videos using Simon Says Stamps Wildflowers stamp set. I have a playlist. I will link to it in the end screen at the very end of this video. Many videos using this set. I love silhouette images, especially like wildflowers and that sort of a thing. Love it. So pulled that out and a couple other sort of oldie but goodies, not even. A couple newer things. Splatter, all the things. Everything I used will be listed and linked in the description box below the video. My links are affiliate links. That just means that if you click on one of my links and end up placing an order, I do get a little kickback from that at no extra cost to you. That is what helps pay the bills, keeps the lights on, enables me to keep bringing out content. And yeah, let's get into making these cards. So I'm starting with just A2 panels of Simon Smooth White cardstock. And for the first blend, I'm using all of these are going to be Simon Positively Saturated inks. And this first trio is Shark, which is a light gray, Aspen, a muted green, and Twilight. And I am using my Pinkfresh Studio 1-inch blending brushes. Any blending brushes will work. I have done many blends over the years using all sorts of brushes. You know, my Simon Says Stamp blending brushes, the large ones, that's normally what I would reach for. And today I was just like, let's use these. Why not? Why not? They all work. That's we've got a million options. Do you need every single brush? No, you don't. Trust me. We've got lots of options. And the beautiful thing too, and I keep mentioning this though, is that the ink formulas we have now, and it's not just like the Simon brand, other brands as well, they make ink blending so much easier than it used to be. Like, night and day difference. Oh, the blends were a struggle. Trying to get those soft blends, trying to, fade out to white, trying to get colors to blend together was a lot more difficult with the, ink formulas of a decade ago. A lot of the hybrid inks, etc. All these ones, they're so much easier. So much better. I love it. Because they smooth out as they dry. They smooth out, they blend together more, they dry back and soften, so they'll lighten up a little bit as well. And you just don't need to stress about it as much. Because even right now, what this blend looks like on camera, it becomes so much more seamless as it fully dries. I love it. So I blended those three together. And then this next combo is Fawn, which is a very light, kind of warm gray, Sky, and Petunia. And I'm doing the exact same thing. Just one color into the next, and keeping it really simple. It was more about these just random. They were random. I was just looking at all my ink pads and I was like, let's experiment. Let's choose colors that I don't normally, reach for, or do blends in colors that, I don't normally reach for. So that's what I did. And it was fun. Colors I wouldn't normally think of, like specifically this combo, a warm gray, a blue, and Petunia's a kind of a grayish purple. It's not a bright purple. It's definitely more muted. And yeah, I really like both these blends. Well, yeah, because I haven't made cards out of them. I kept going with it because I was like, oh, I don't know how this is even going to turn out. But thankfully I had, my camera on and filmed it while I was doing this. And yeah, I encourage it, get out of your wheelhouse and experiment. It's something fun. And even if it's a, a stamp using a die set, whatever it is, do it in the colors you want the first time. What you normally do, what you want to do, or whatever a traditional color combo is, whatever. And then to mix it up, just like I keep saying, change the colors. Do the exact same thing, just change up the colors and see what you think. It's fun. So I've got my blends, and then I'm going to go sort of backwards, but there's a method to the madness. I set those blends aside. We'll come back to them in a minute. I've got my card bases here first. So my card bases are going to be top folding A2 white note cards, so 4¼ by 5½ inches. And I've got this Wildflowers stamp set that I just love. I'm getting close to, I'm definitely over a dozen. The number will be on this video once I upload it of how many I've done. It's a lot. It's well over a dozen videos. I love this stamp set. And it's big and it's fun. So, my card base. I am stamping on the inside of the card right now. And I want to do this first. Just, it's a convenience factor because especially a lot of these ink colors I'm using are quite light. So I'm inking up the stamp with the same colors I blended with. So for this stamp, I'm working on the second combo I did. These are the colors I chose. So I started with the fawn color and I did that along the bottom. And then I'm using the sky ink pad after I'd stamped it, open the lid again. And I was holding the ink pad on an angle and only using like the very edge of the ink pad so I could ink up just sort of the center area of the stamp. And then I also used the blending brush to sort of soften it a little bit right on the stamp so you don't get those really harsh lines up from the ink pad. When you're pressing the ink pad only to a certain portion of the stamp, it'll leave those little straight lines from the ink pad. So the blending brush just kind of helps soften it. Again, I'm not worried about it being perfect. This is going on the inside of the card. It is what it is. I don't overthink it too much. Plus, like I keep saying, the inks they smooth out a bit. They're not going to do magic and like move fully in all the things, but they do soften a bit. So, and then I did the same thing with the final color, which is Petunia. And I inked it up using just along the top and then, softened everything with the blending brush. And then I can wipe the stamp off and then put the panel that I had ink blended. And as you can see how much softer it is. It's dried back a bit. It's smoother. Love it. Love these things. So I put the panel in place and now I'm inking this up with, instead of black, for this one, I went with brown. So I used VersaFine Clair's PINECONE ink, which is a nice dark brown, and inked it up and stamped it onto the ink blended panel. So it gives a much softer look than just stamping in black. I need to remember to do that more often. It's just kind of knee-jerk habit to always reach for black as the neutral, but sometimes brown just really works. So I repeated the process with the other stamp in the set, the second card base, doing the exact same thing, inking it up with the one shade, softening it with the same blending brush, and then going in with the second one, stamping it, and then going in with the final shade along the bottom, softening that with my blending brush. And when I'm inking up the stamp, I started with whatever the lightest shade was. So with the previous one, it was that fawn shade. With this one, it was Shark, the light gray. So that just determines whether I'm starting top to bottom, bottom to top, just whatever the lightest shade is in my blend. And then cleaned off the stamp, put the ink blended panel into my MISTI. And then this one I inked up with Nocturne ink, so a dark black, like solid black ink. And I love this stamp set. It's so gorgeous. Look at that. It's so beautiful. And then I'm going to die cut these panels. And I'm going to use one of the modern Teardrops wafer dies. So picked one out. I die cut them. And then I'm going to adhere these to their respective card fronts by popping them up with a little bit of Simon's Big Mama foam tape. So it'll just give them a little bit of dimension. So get the foam tape on the back. And then I can press these onto their card fronts. And then we're going to add splatter, of course. And for my splatter, I pulled out the little Spellbinders, the watercolor mixing set. I've shown this in a few videos. It's got a pearl gold, a pearl silver, and an indigo shade. And I, of course, always reach for the gold, especially for these. The gold is where it's at. So with metallic style watercolors, pearled, metallic, etc., glitter, any of those types of watercolors, that you need to work them up. You need to add some water and really work it up with a brush. You can't just like touch it with a wet brush and expect immediate color payoff. These you got to warm them up a bit. So I add a drop of water or several drops, and I stir it up really well with my brush. And this time I'm not using my fan brush. Again, I was just living on the edge, really mixing it up, you guys. Fan brush would have been fine, but sometimes I get bored even with my own methods. So this time I just used this is still a Royal and Langnickel brush, like same as my fan brush, so aka just a cheap brush. Cheap brushes make great splatter. This is a size 4, and stirred it up really well, and then I put it onto a little acrylic block, and then you just kind of drag the brush against the edge of the acrylic block. Creates your splatter. You can sort of aim with it. This method takes a little bit of practice. It's been a long time. I remember the first time I did it and I was like, it's a little freaky, but it's not difficult. But I would recommend, if you've never done it before and you want to do like just a little round brush and acrylic block, test on scraps first. It's not difficult. It's not rocket science, but splatter is intimidating. I know. And I love it. I'm obsessed. And if I can do it, anybody can do it. So I did my splatter, set everything aside. And then for my sentiments, I'm using CZ Designs. Is it just Inside Sentiments Birthday? Inside Greetings Birthday set. And I've got brown cardstock and black cardstock. I use my anti-static powder tool. That prevents the embossed powder from clinging to anything other than the stamped image. And I stamped the happy birthday sentiment from that set with clear embossing ink onto these cardstocks. Coated them with Simon's Detail Gold embossing powder. Melted it with my heat tool. Then I'm using my microfiber cloth to buff away that excess anti-static powder. And I can always tell when I need to switch out to a fresh cloth. Like, I keep a pile of all the cloths and flower sock cloths, etc., that I use. And then I wash them in a separate load so that I don't get like ink on our clothes. With my microfiber cloth, I can tell when it's starting to get just too full of like dust and anti-static powder, etc., when it takes a lot more elbow grease to buff away that excess anti-static powder, that cloth, it's time to switch to a clean one. So anyway, buff them, die cut them with the coordinating wafer die, and then the splatter is dry. So on the insides of the cards, I'm stamping another sentiment from that same stamp set using the PINECONE and then the Nocturne inks. And then for the sentiments on the front, after I die cut them, I die cut scraps of the same cardstock and then stacking them just one extra layer. Not creating like tons of dimension here, but it just gives it that little extra something. So stack those together with liquid glue. And then I'm going to adhere these to their respective card fronts. So the black sentiment goes with the one I stamped with the black ink, the brown with the brown. And then I could not resist. You gotta add a dragonfly. I was digging through my stash of like dragonfly and butterfly wafer dies because they just go so well with the wildflowers silhouettes. It's just perfection. So this one is the bright dragonfly wafer die set. I die cut the bodies from the same cardstocks that I did the sentiments on. And then the wings I die cut from some gold vellum. As of me doing this voiceover, I just checked. I think this is out of stock. They will restock it. I hope they will. They should. They always do. I have backups of this gold vellum. I've shown it in many videos. We've had discussions about it in the live streams. It's beautiful. It's just shimmery and perfect for wings, butterflies and dragonflies and things like that. So I die cut them from that vellum, adhered them to their little bodies. The dies pierce all that detail in the wings too, which just naturally, with vellum especially, naturally makes the wings kind of curl up a little bit. So I don't add any other adhesive. I want those wings just out and curled. Love it. And then I just adhere it to the card front. And that's it. Super simple. So all that detail, and it was simply just quick die cutting, assemble the wing, like glue the wings to the back of the body, glue the dragonfly down, and we're done. Like, I love it. I love dragonflies so much. So much. So adhered them to their little card bases. And then my final little bit of embellishment, I dug through all my Pawsitively Dazzling gems, and I was like, I knew I had colors that would work, and I had several actually. So for the, I'll call it the brown card, the one on the left, I used Lilac Pawsitively Dazzling gems because they kind of mimic the Petunia color that I ink blended at the very top there. And then on the black card, I used Sprout because that color went kind of nicely with the Aspen green that I blended in the center there. So figured out my placement, decided to kind of flip them. As you can see, the one Dragonfly on the one card faces one direction, did it different on the other. So then I also flipped where I placed the bling just to mix it up a smidge. So pick those up with my little embellishment wand, adhere them down with little dabs of liquid glue. Then I just got to let the glue dry, and these cards are complete. So very soft color blends. You know, I wasn't going with super bright, intense colors. I don't love me the bright and intense. Sometimes soft just works. These could also make really nice sympathy cards. I thought about it, but I like having extra birthday cards in my stash, and I just wasn't in the mood. See, sometimes you got to be in the right mood to do sympathy cards, but these also work, and I'm 99% positive I've done several sympathy cards with this Wildflower set because it lends itself nicely to that, you know? So soft, sort of unconventional color combos, some splatter, some heat embossing, little pretty dragonflies, and some bling. So those were the cards. Thank you all so much for hanging out with me, for thumbs upping and commenting, letting them robot overlords know you like what you see. I very much appreciate it. Subscribe if you haven't. I'd love to have you, and I'll see you all very soon in the next one. Bye. Thank you so much to my amazing Patreon supporters. For anyone that might be interested in joining my Patreon community and supporting me, the link to my Patreon is in the description box below the video. For everyone else, as always, thank you all so much for taking the time to watch my videos, for thumbs upping, commenting, subscribe if you haven't, I'd love to have you. And here's a couple other videos for you to check out in case you missed them. Bye!